Well, hi, thanks for talking to me. I appreciate it. I very much enjoyed the beginning of the series. So I'm waiting for them to send more. I really liked it so far.
Nice.
So to start out, I mean, what attracted you to the, I know obviously it's based on a comic book, but what was it about the story that made you want to adapt it for whoever wants to?
Yeah. So I met Tim, back in 2016, and we got to talking a lot, became friends, and I talked to him about, maybe working on something together, and he mentioned that Revival was available, and I had been a huge fan of the comic. Aaron and I both come from small Midwestern towns, so the setting and the vibe appealed to us quite a bit, and then taking that into a supernatural horror, world, I think it just fits us, like a glove. So it was a perfect thing to adapt for both of us, and Tim and Mike were extremely gracious. They had really wanted to do something more in the indie space, and we're much more interested in working with someone like Aaron and I, who had done a lot of indie horror and indie, productions. So, adapting this outside of the main system was a big thing for them. So, we wanted to really honor what the spirit of the comic was, and honor, how gracious they were with giving us that freedom. So.
Anything to add, Aaron?
Yeah, I mean, what I'll say is, when Luke said, "Hey, I've got this passion project. I've known these guys for a while. Will you give it a read?" And I'd heard of Revival, I hadn't read it. I knew Tim's other comic, Hack Slash, and I read the first issue, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is a pilot! Like, this is a pilot! Like, you just feel it. It just jumps off the page. The characters are so interesting. They're like straight out of a Fargo episode. It's Coen Brothers-esque, this rural noir, and you got these supernatural aspects. And then I get to what the real hook is, which really kind of comes into play at the end of the first issue and the end of our first episode, which is this is a murder mystery where the person is still alive. And I'm like, oh my God. Like then they get to solve their murder. Like this is so fun. Like what a fun thing. And I saw this like, hey, I've always wanted to do a murder mystery. I'm really a big fan of like Mayor of Easttown and a lot of those shows. So I was like, okay, I think we could follow a similar path, but then throw these weird characters from the comic and then get a supernatural twist. And I think we have a unique show and it really excited me. And I said, not only do I want to help you produce this, like I want to make this thing. Like I want to like this is I want to get creatively behind it because it was so exciting.
Yeah, it's definitely unique. So how do you decide, I guess, what you pulled from the comic versus what you're able to creatively add of your own?
It's really hard, There's 47 issues of this thing, right? And they go to some like really, really wild places, literally, and what's going on. And I think when Luke and I we had our what we would call our pre-writers room, which is the two of us on Zoom for 10 hours a day, for weeks at a time. And at that moment, we pulled up a Miro board and we're just throwing all these touchstones. And Luke, being such a huge fan of the comic and knowing it and he's so close to material for so many years, was like, okay, this. And like, okay, here's kind of our landscape. We know we're going to focus on the Cypress family. We're going to focus on the murder mystery. But how do we play this out in a 10 episode series in a unique way that gives the comic fans what they're looking for, but also can kind of bring in new fans of that haven't read the comic into to this world and then maybe zig when they think we're going to zag and twist things up and set up different potential murderers and whatnot. Was really really fun to kind of play with. But it started with, a lot of Luke's experience. And then it's like, hey, when I read it, this is the thing that mattered to me. Like in the second episode, M's fight at the bar. That was like, oh, that's such a great moment in the comic. Like, we gotta do this. You gotta someone who's like letting herself go with this. And then it was how do you take those moments and add something to them? So like her having OI, for example, that was a thing that we added to the comic, and this idea that she has brittle bone disease and this idea of like what that could mean. So I think that was a really fun thing to kind of play with.
Mhm. Luke, being a fan of the comics, what was something that you really wanted to bring in? And was there anything that you really wanted to bring in that you couldn't because, logistically a TV show was not the same?
Yeah, I mean, I will say we did a lot from the comic. We had a lot of the big touchstones in season one alone. There's definitely some stuff I think that we wish we could have done. We had options, and we decided to push them to the side for future seasons and things like that. I mean, I get, people will notice that Derek is mentioned, but not does not show up in season one. So that's one that we're very excited to sort of come in later. And there's a few other ones that we've kind of twisted a little bit that I think we're excited for, to bring it in the future in a different way that fans won't quite, be expecting. So there's certainly some stuff, but I mean, we, like Aaron said, we really wanted to get these touchstones from the comics, these big moments from the comics. It's the Czech brothers, things like that, we wanted to make sure were there, that felt like revival, but we wanted to find ways to kind of get to them organically. We kind of built the Cypress family, and taking it from the comic book, taking our own spin on it, adding new backstory to all the characters, and then how does that then play out into the show? Especially with Patty, with the mom, and we do stuff with Patty, and I think that people are going to be really really interested in. So
Talk a bit about casting.
I mean, it was a dream. I still can't believe some of the people that we got here, but it all started with finding our Dana, And when we first saw Melanie Scrofano's reel, it was like, oh my God! Like not only does she embody what Dana kind of is in so many characters that she's played, but like as a person, like we went to her Instagram and we're like laughing at her stories and what's going on. We're like, oh my God, she is this. Like she brings such a, as Luke would always said, like a sardonic wit that's there that I think is so appropriate, and it fits so well, and we just vibed. We just like really had a great vibe, and I'm like, look, put some freckles on her, and this is Dana. And so from there, then we were able to like, okay, now let's find our M. I almost said find our Romy because that's how it feels. Romy is our M now. There is no one else.
yeah,
And we did a wide search,
yeah,
for our M. We looked at hundreds of tapes, tons of people to try to find like who could really fit, because we have a very interesting journey that we want to take with her, and maybe go even a little further into some things that have happened in the comic with her character. And so that was a big part. And then it was, Find Your Wayne, which was David James Elliott, suggested by our friend Dan March. And we were like, oh my God, the guy from Jag, like I remember him as a kid, like that was a big deal. It was like the number one show on CBS for a while. I was like, that would be fun. And then of our four, Annie McQueen, who plays Ibrahim, is just going to be such a scene stealer when everybody gets to see him, and especially in later episodes. Like it's unbelievable what he does. But yeah, it's just Stephen Hogg, CM Punk, so many comedians we brought into. Like it's just really exciting. It's a pretty
yeah.
amazing
I'm
cast.
I'm very excited for people to meet Brent. Mark Little's
Yes.
Brent is maybe one of the highlights of the show for me. So, and I think people are going to absolutely adore him. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it. I very much enjoyed it. Like I said, I'm looking forward to seeing the rest of the season and where it goes. So,
You
Thank
should be getting more
you.
episodes today, actually, I
oh,
think.
okay, good. Yeah, I watched
Yeah.
them right away,
Yeah.
so I'll go finish them as soon as I get
Awesome.
them. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much.
Thanks, Jamie. Yeah, nice to
Bye-bye.
meet you.
Nice to meet you too.